Oh gosh, I'm really nervous about this. I literally spent like the last 2 days crying and grieving. So if I seem nervous during this video, it's because I am letting go of my baby. My baby that has provided for my family for the last 6 years. My baby that has literally helped me grow up and make sense of so much that I've gone through. I can feel my heart racing in this video. And I just feel like, I keep saying to everybody in my life, I feel like I am taking off a full body cast right now and going forward with these little limbs. It's like one of those times where you just kind of got to go and do it scared and to hope for the best, because what I've been doing has not been working. Let's do it. Saying goodbye to the Confused brand. If you guys don't know, I've been a content creator since 2016, so about 8 years. I launched my original brand, The Confused Millennial. In the midst of my quarter life crisis, I was crying to my husband saying, I'm just another confused millennial who has no idea what I'm doing with my life. And 48 hours later, my blog was born. It pretty much covered all things adulting that a 20-something in the middle of a quarter life crisis would want to know. And I truly loved the name The Confused at the time. I found it to be liberating because I had really reclaimed that word from confusion to curiosity, I guess would be the simplest way to say it. I looked at it as an asset for our evolution. And then last year I was taking Nikki Novo's Soul Reader Method course, which is like a psychic certification that I absolutely loved. It helped me fill a lot of potholes in my shamanic practitioner training, as well as make sense of a lot of the intuitive abilities I had experiences with going back to being a child. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and I think I have a coupon code for it if anyone's interested in exploring that. It's really fun. Anyway, a big part of Nikki's course is practice. So you get about 3 hours a week to practice reading each other. And one of the girls, Liz, in the group read me and said I needed to change my branding away from confused. At the time, I was very resistant, but what she said did kind of sit in the back of my head and eat away at me because I had started feeling like the confused millennial was very childish and not necessarily representative of me anymore, especially as my YouTube channel had kind of taken up more and more of my attention and I was talking more and more to moms. And so I rebranded from the Confused Millennial to the Confused Mom, hoping getting rid of millennial would remove some of that childishness feeling. Only I didn't. I just felt even messier because so much stuff was still under the Confused Millennial, and now I also had the Confused Mom, and I was just feeling like a mess. So this last year of my business has been the absolute hardest I have ever had. If you don't know, I have been the sole income for our family for over 6 years now. And that was a life choice my husband and I made where we got to spend a lot of time at home with our kids. We're so happy for it, but now that they're both in school, things are definitely like we're going through a change of responsibilities and stuff. And with the rise of AI, there's just been a lot of stuff. If you have been in this content creator space for as long as I have, I would say this past year has been the bumpiest year for most people, especially people who primarily identify as bloggers like myself. So I was talking to a business coach last month, kind of just trying to make sense of this funk I have been in and where I wanted to go next. And at the very end of the call, he said to me, I might want to consider shifting away from the Confused brand. And at this point, I feel like 50 people over the last years have said this to me, but finally this time I was actually ready to hear it. So then I spent the last month brainstorming different names, and I thought I knew what I was going to rebrand to. And then I ended up speaking to the CEO of Love Every last week for the first time. I've never gotten to actually talk to her, which was really cool after all of these years of just reviewing their content and not really talking to them ever about anything at all. And I told her about this upcoming brand change and what I thought the name was going to be at that time. And she said to me, yeah, the Confused Millennial is so cute, but then you start watching your videos and you realize, whoa, she really knows what she's talking about. And the dichotomy between the two is just like, whoa. That conversation paired with the business coach kind of saying I needed to move away from it got me to really think about what it is people always say about me, whether they know me in real life or they just watch my content or read my content. And that is that I am confident. Even going back to when I had my first child in the hospital, the nurses were saying how confident I was and asking me what number baby she was. And over the last month, I just kind of kept talking on loop to my husband about where I was shifting the brand and what I hoped it would become and who I was trying to help and what problem I was trying to solve and all those types of questions when it finally just dropped in. Confidently Mom. A place for us to come together and feel confident in our choices and abilities as moms. You know, I'll be honest, from the last few years, we were in a serious triage for a couple of them with our kids. Not to go into all the details, but we were looking at an apraxia diagnosis, PANS/PANDAS, which is a neuropsychiatric condition I would not wish on anybody. It has to do with brain inflammation and a series of symptoms that are, for lack of a better word, traumatizing for everybody. Children who were barely sleeping, me being totally dysregulated and wildly scared for my family's health and happiness. And throughout my entire life, the majority of moms I have witnessed or talked with fall into two camps. Number one, happy but disconnected. These are the types of moms that push through hard times, but they're kind of disconnected from their bodies. They typically have really strong coping mechanisms and aren't even necessarily aware of the problems or challenges they're facing because they have never really been exposed to another way of doing life. And the second camp are the white knucklers. They are the moms who are more aware of what's going on, but they struggle with confidence and wondering why the different strategies that supposedly work for others aren't working for them. They tend to be a bit more anxious or overwhelmed. They definitely struggle with mom guilt. Sometimes there's some mild depression or resentments, and they often second guess their choices or just feel at a loss as to why nothing seems to be working out for them. I've been both of these moms at different points, and of course there's a lot of gray in those two options that I didn't hit on, and I also just want to acknowledge those are the two camps I see the majority of moms fall into, not that every mom is going to fall into them. And I think those two camps of moms are definitely reflected in the social media trends we've seen over the last few years. I think the first camp of moms who are happy but disconnected was the rise of the girl boss culture or mommy wine culture. Just be happy, just keep pushing. There's a disconnect from what's actually going on in their nervous systems because whether it's mommy wine culture or work, there's some other vice that's taking their attention away from that second half. And the second camp of moms, the white knucklers, really gave way to this trad wife movement that's popping up, as well as I honestly think the gentle parenting movement. I think we live in this time of information overload and learning how to get out of our heads, get out of the intellectualization, and move into our bodies where we connect our thoughts and feelings to our actions allows us to move forward in an embodied and conscious way that is really the key to confidently momming, to not doing this overcorrection from the previous generation like I was talking about, and it's what I hope to share with Confidently Mom. So what you can expect from Confidently Mom, yes, I will still be doing my honest product reviews that you guys have come to know and love. I still want parents to feel confident in their purchasing choices, and I do really love how I do product reviews in the sense of here's who I think it's best for, here are the limitations, really giving you guys the information you need to make the best choice for your family, because I don't think we're all one size fits all. And even if I may get carried away because I got really excited about a product, I still hope to share it with enough information that you don't feel like you have to buy it and you can see yourself in those reviews and making the right choice for your family. The second thing that I really want to shift more into is sharing conscious parenting. I truly believe the path forward for most moms and most families has to do with reconnecting to our maternal intuition and integrating our thoughts, feelings, and actions, like I keep saying over and over again. These are the conversations I have with my friends when I'm not on camera. They are backed by a lifetime of studying psychology. I literally have a letter from my 10-year-old self saying I want to grow up and be a psychologist. I have my master's focusing on counseling. I was on track to become a licensed mental health counselor before I made the difficult decision to not go the clinical route. And I was going to get my doctorate when I also decided that I didn't like the bureaucracy of the educational system. This is kind of like what I study, what I live and breathe. I've been reading psychology books since I was 10. I don't know why people think I'm confident. I don't feel confident at all times, but I will share more about the behind the scenes of how I do get confident about my choices and get into that alignment. I really want to talk more about breaking the cycle of these generational overcorrections like I keep bringing up, and I'm currently seeing this right now with the gentle parenting approach, where we have this overcorrection from our parents who were very authoritative and tough love, and we're already seeing the overcorrection with the gentle parents in the headlines saying Gen Alpha is the most out of control generation, or teachers are quitting left and right because the kids are just so wild. But what I don't see a lot of headlines on, but I know it's happening from the many conversations I have with people, is that parents trying to do gentle parenting are actually falling into permissive parenting. They are white knuckling parenting, and they don't understand why the scripts they're reading and implementing from Instagram or the experts aren't working for them, or why they're walking around with a constant low simmer resentment or depression at all times towards their kids and their families and life in general. And what I hope to bring to the table is a different approach where we strive less for perfection and more for radical self-acceptance, where we understand that everybody's going to inevitably mess their kids up at some point, but we have the confidence to navigate those mess ups and repair the relationship. My mom would always say, no child gets through childhood unscathed. Every parent messes their kids up. And that's actually a perfect example that I have watched my mom struggle and have to heal with. My mom knew the right thought. She said the right word, but she hadn't brought her feelings into alignment with that. And so when we would butt heads, her feelings of guilt and shame, because she didn't fully embody those beliefs, would end up leading to more friction in our relationship, where she had a lot of healing to go back and look at with her mom. And so that's what I hope to help people work through, which is, yes, you can know the saying, you can do the right thing, but there's usually a missing component, and that's where our healing lies and our evolution lies. I care so much less about finding the right natural consequence, which has been like a really big movement in Montessori and respectful or gentle parenting, and more about bringing this awareness to our choices as parents, because your brain capacity doesn't need to be spent coming up with the perfect natural consequence. It's okay to pull from what you've always experienced, as long as you bring more awareness to it, where it ends up becoming a gentler approach, not because you were using a gentle tone, but because you embody that leadership that you needed as a child yourself. I truly believe when we can bring that awareness into all things, not just doing the thing or thinking the thought, is when we will achieve the ultimate goal of connection with our children, which is really about not just having adult children who will come visit you, but want to come visit you. One where when they inevitably become adults and are processing their childhoods, they can talk about the mistakes or discomforts from their childhood, and you as the parent don't take it personally because you can see their point of view and you did the best you could with what you had at the time. It doesn't become this thing where you're beating yourself up over and over because you could have done it better. I want this to be a place of deep breaths and of learning, knowing that if you yell at your kids, you're not damaging them forever. Or on the flip side, and this is an uncomfortable one, if you are always being super gentle and responsive and that's not actually in alignment for you, you can actually end up enabling your child and not preparing them with the skills that ultimately leads them to becoming a failure to launch situation or entitled. And I've seen this so many times again and again in the substance abuse world. And I know that's uncomfortable, but that is a big thing that people often don't want to look at or talk about in the gentle space, which is gentle without embodiment. That's where the permissive part lies. But I want this to be a space where you can deconstruct your beliefs as a mother and question the status quo so that you can really break everything down and rebuild it in a way that you feel confident in what it is you're navigating and feeling and experiencing, so that you can stop feeling exhausted, stop feeling resentful, and let go of the mom guilt once and for all. Now, one thing I'm personally struggling with this change is that I am a hyper-aware person, and I know that the internet algorithms are often driven by angry comments. So what I want to say is this, a disclaimer: if I'm doing a short form video, which is 60 seconds or less, it in no way captures the nuance and extent or depth of my feelings on a subject. I look at those videos as small clips in time. And if they trigger you, chances are they're showing you where you have more awareness or consciousness or healing to do. So like that would be something good to bring to your therapist. If that's a challenging concept for you, I have a podcast episode I did on the power of social media as a great classroom for healing that I would suggest watching. I think we as adults need to do a better job not holding others accountable for whoever it was that hurt us in our past. I personally believe that our entire external world is a reflection of our internal world. And so I know that I was really looking to overcome and heal this part of my past, where as a kid, I felt responsible for any feeling happening around me. And so I brought a lot of those comments into my feeds in the past where people were angry or hurt or wanted to be seen. And those were all reflections for where I was at the time. And so for me, where I'm at today is I have a boundary where I'm just not going to go back and engage with that. So just know, I do see people's pain. I do know that they're hurting. I do know that there's a lot more nuance than can be captured in 60 seconds. But it's not my job as some stranger on the internet to help every single person process those feelings. If that is something that you want, I do offer conscious parent coaching at this time. I will leave a link to that page in the description box below, and you guys can see all my qualifications and credentials and trainings down there. And if there are any questions you guys have been struggling with, maybe there's a situation that you can't figure out why the Instagram scripts aren't working for you, or you can't figure out why you keep going round and round the same pattern with your kid, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I will do my best to work them into future videos as we figure out how to confidently mom together.